Yo, what is up, guys? I hope you're very well. Just thought I'd come outside for a quick, 10-15 minute video, get a bit of fresh air, get a few things off my mind. I've just finished a 4-hour deep work block, filming the last module for the university. We are all ready for launch. But I wanted to just come out and film a video. One, because I wanted some fresh air. Two, because I actually have a really insightful topic which will help you a lot moving forward and getting very good results. I had a guy message me on Instagram last night, and I just sent him a voice note this morning. But basically what his question was, I've seen your priming video, Tom. So I've got a video on YouTube which basically shows you how to set up your nutrition for a maintenance phase so you can then transition effectively into a diet phase and get the best results. And he'd watched that. But his question was, how does he then go through the diet phase and how should he approach it from a macronutrient structure? And by that, what I mean is, should you be taking a high carb, low fat approach? Should you be taking a high fat, low carb approach? Should you maybe be taking a moderate carb, moderate fat approach? And so on. His question actually was, he mentioned keto, and that isn't really something I ever like to do. I don't ever like to completely pull a macronutrient group out, but to keep it simple, high carb, lower fats, high fats, lower carbs, or moderate. So I'm going to run you through effectively just the pros and cons of all of these and why you may look at doing certain ones, and actually which ones I use as well myself when I want to get in the best shape but in the most sustainable way. So effectively, guys, right now, let's imagine you've just run a maintenance block and you followed the video I did from my priming video. If you haven't already watched that, guys, it's a great video to go and watch. I'll try and put a link up here as well so you can go and watch that, because that is how effectively you want to start a diet phase. Now, I'm going to run through, first of all, the high carb, low fat approach. So from there, effectively, what that means is pretty much from your maintenance, you're going to keep your carbs as high as possible, and you're basically going to create deficit with pulling fats, and then obviously you've got cardio and expenditure as a tool you can elevate as well. So fats are really going to be the biggest tool to create the deficit that you're going to pull out of your nutrition. Protein, I never touch. I just keep that at 1 gram per pound net protein, okay? So effectively, imagine we have 275 carbs and we've got 80 fats for your maintenance, okay? Now, the high carb, low fat approach, what we'd do is we'd try and keep carbs at 275, and we would just go fat pull, fat pull, fat pull, fat pull, whenever we needed to make amendments, okay? Now, the benefits to this programming, so high carb, lower fats, is effectively just so we can maximize performance, all right? And also maximize the aesthetic. And the reason we would use this for maximizing the aesthetic and training performance is for the single reason that we're in a deficit, so we're getting lean either way with any of these structures. But when we keep carbohydrates higher, we can have basically better training performance and more intramuscular fullness. And the reason behind that is carbohydrates, when we take them into our body, we then store that in the muscle as something called glycogen, okay? And that glycogen storage, when in our body, sorry, it's a little bit noisy, when in our body is stored in the muscle as glycogen, and that gives our muscle more fullness. So in a muscle, imagine your muscle's like a balloon. You've got glycogen storage, which is from carbohydrates. You've got water, and you've got electrolytes like sodium. Those three things combined give us the fullness. So when you see someone in the muscles just look rock hard and full, they've got a decent amount of carbs and water and sodium in the muscle, okay? So if we keep carbs as high as possible, it's going to keep intramuscular fullness as high as possible, which is going to also help elevate training performance and muscle contraction. And obviously, if we keep training performance as high as possible through a diet phase, it increases our ability to build tissue, or at least retain tissue if you're already an experienced gymmer. Okay, so that's the benefit really. From an aesthetic standpoint, you're going to look fuller. You're probably going to look more aesthetic because of that fullness. You'll look leaner technically because you've got more intramuscular fullness. And it's just going to give a more vascular look, in my opinion, from those carbohydrates. Now, the downsides to this effectively are, number one, your appetite may be a little bit higher. Now, some people get this mixed up and they think, oh, because carbohydrates are more volume than fats, you're going to feel more full. And yes, that's correct, they are more volume, but fats are more satiating. So when we pull fats, what happens is carbs will basically make us feel more hungry, because when we've got no fats, what fats do is fats keep us satiated because they slow down gastric emptying. Okay, so slowing down gastric emptying when we've got fats is now going to be, that's going to be out of the picture. It's actually going to speed up. So basically what that means is when we take food into our stomach, it gets digested and sent off very fast without fats in our meals, or less fats in our meals. And that means we're going to have higher hunger faster after each meal and more throughout the day. So it's going to be harder to manage from an appetite standpoint. Also, fats regulate hormones and bodily function. So when we pull fats low, I'm not saying we're at zero fats, but at a much lower fats, what that can do is that can play around a little bit with testosterone and other bodily functions. So we have to be careful on that, because what you can find is you can almost feel a little bit gray and dull and low in energy in a morning when you're on really low fats, and that's just because of that hormone optimization that we might not be able to quite optimize when we don't have the fats in there at the same rate. So from a performance standpoint in the gym, more intramuscular fullness, probably from a dryness perspective as well with those higher carbs, that's going to be a big benefit. Now, why would we use effectively the same deficit but with a high fats, low carbs? The reason we may use this is effectively for the opposite. So this is for people who aren't quite as bothered about that hard, full aesthetic and trying to look as optimal as possible. It's more about people who want to focus and manage their appetite better. So I find for myself, if I'm trying to focus as much as possible, and basically for people who have got a really taxing job cognitively, where they may be in an office looking at screens, or it requires a lot of focus and decision making on a daily basis, going low carb and high fats means that you can just optimize cognitive performance a little bit better. I almost feel like fats can act a little bit like a nootropic. I feel just more focused, and also because of this we can effectively optimize our bodily function better as well, because and hormones better, okay, with this. And all of this will effectively just contribute to feeling better through the day. Now, the downside to going high fats and low carbs is the fact that we might not have that intramuscular fullness like we would from the high carb, low fats. And that's because obviously we're taking carbohydrates out, not entirely, but they're going to get lower, especially later on in the phase. And when you've got less glycogen, you can almost get that flat look where you feel like you've lost tissue, but you haven't. It's just that your muscle as a balloon is almost deflated. Now, the analogy of getting flat, there's a saying in the industry called get flat or stay fat. And what that means is your muscle effectively, imagine you've got a balloon and we're stretching a balloon. We're training hard, we're performing well, and we're stretching the balloon. We are growing the muscle. But during the diet phase, especially with the low carb approach, we're deflating the balloon because we're putting less carbs in there to pump it up. So it can be getting bigger, but look smaller every week because you've got less carbohydrates. So you can feel like you're losing muscle tissue even when you're growing tissue. And it's not then until after the phase when you push carbs back up, you get to see the tissue build and the fullness, okay? So mentally it can be a little bit tougher with the low carb approach and high fats, just because you can feel a little bit flatter. Obviously, like I said, the benefits are it's easier to manage your appetite and it's better for focus and hormone optimization. Now, the third option is you could go somewhere in the middle. You could go moderate carbs and moderate fats. This is really good for lifestyle management, in my personal opinion. Number one being you get the best of both. You get the aesthetics a little bit, and you also get the focus a little bit. It's not going to be quite as optimal at each one as the high carb or the low carb, but you get a bit of both. It's like the 50-50 sliced bread, all right? So that's what happens when you go that way. But I would say from a noisy lorry. What I would say from a lifestyle management standpoint, guys, is the fact that when you're eating out, let's say you're someone who travels a lot with work, or you just like more social stuff and you like to eat in restaurants and get results that way, because I do myself. What I find is if you go moderate carb, moderate fats, it's easier to eat out and easier to get stuff from supermarkets out on the go when you go moderate carb, moderate fats. And the reason being is it's much easier to get meals that have got both moderate carbs and moderate fats in than it is to try and go and eat out, and you need something that's got high carbs but virtually no fats, or also to eat meals which have got really high quality fats but virtually no carbs. Now, you can do both of these absolutely fine eating out, but it takes a little bit more searching through menus, looking through supermarkets for things which are pretty much pulling certain macronutrient groups, okay? So I would say if you're someone that is eating out a lot more, it's a little bit easier to eat a bit more of whatever if you go more that moderate approach. Now, an advanced approach to all of this would be a manipulative approach. So you can actually change strategy part way through the phase. And this is something I do myself from time to time. I actually did this in my last diet phase. So obviously we've been doing like 14, 16 hour days behind the laptop, building on some big projects within the business. I've been dieting and I've been wanting to get leaner, but at the same time, I've been like, I can't afford to like not have energy and lose and get brain fog and lose focus. So I basically set myself up for the first 10 weeks of the diet phase with a low carb and high fat approach. So that means I was still losing body fat at the same rate. I was in the same deficit as I would have been with any approach, but I'm optimized for cognitive function, optimized for testosterone and hormones, and my appetite was so manageable the whole way through. But then when I want to look a little bit fuller and I know I've got to get some content for Instagram, or I've got to shoot for the brand or whatever, and I want to look a bit better and I want to increase that intramuscular fullness, look a bit harder, drier, I then basically, at the same calories, I just switch my macronutrients and I'll basically go high carb, low fat for a couple of weeks. Yes, it's a bit harder to manage the appetite. My energy might not be quite as there during the day. Training performance, however, would increase and I'll look better for pictures and stuff like that. So let's say we worked calories down from 2,750 and we were down at 2,000 with low carb and high fats. Those last 2 weeks, I would keep at 2,000 calories, but I then may go and make my calories up from higher carb, lower fats. And that way, I've got down into great body fat with an easy approach, which is optimized for focus. And then in the last couple of weeks, I flip it and I'll just almost peak for more of a look. All right. Now, again, is this as good from an aesthetic standpoint as going just high carb, low fats? No, because I may have missed out on a tiny bit of training performance all the way down, but it's another way you can manage it, just like moderate carb and moderate fats is. So to summarize, guys, you've got high carb, low fats. This is going to be perfect for those who are just like, Tom, I want to do a photo shoot, or I want to look mad, I want to go to Ibiza, I just want to look unreal. And what you're going to do from your maintenance, you're pretty much just going to pull fats as your deficit, and you're going to increase your cardio when you need to, okay? The looks are going to be the best, and that's all I've got to say about high carb, low fats. You're going to look the best. It might just be a bit harder to manage appetite and also energy and focus during the day. On the other hand, you could go effectively high fat, low carb, and that would be basically where you just pull carbs and you push cardio, but you keep fats as high as you can. That's really great. It's good for performance and focus and hormones and testosterone, but at the same time, you may miss out on a little bit of performance in the gym and you may feel a little bit flat during the process, intramuscular, because you've got less carbohydrates. Like we said, glycogen in the muscle is going to contribute to that fullness and fuller pumps and contractions. You could take the moderate approach where you basically may go pull a bit of fats and carbs, pull a bit of fats and carbs, or one then the other, one then the other, and you work them down pretty much in sequence. And that's a really good approach as well, especially when you're eating out a bit and you got to manage your lifestyle and you need something where there's going to be a bit of fats and carbs within your meals. It's really easy to do like a MyFitnessPal approach that way on your off-plan days when you've got still enough of each macronutrient to play with. And then the final option is you manipulate. You can swap. You could go high carb, low fats, all the way down, optimized performance, and then you may be like, oh, I really got to crack on and get some stuff done. I'm struggling to focus. I'm going to swap and go high fat, low carb. Or you could do it the opposite, which is like what I did recently, which was low carb, high fat, manage my appetite, my hormones, my focus, all the way down. And then I flipped at the end to the same calories, but just went high carb, low fat for a couple of weeks. Okay, guys, so there's no right and wrong way at all. When we're coaching our clients, it's all just about, look, what's going to be the easiest for you to get the job done and make you feel the best? Because yes, we want to build a physique, but I'm big on, I don't build a physique to build a physique. Yeah, I build a physique for multiple reasons. I want to look good, yes, but I also want to have more energy. I want to be more focused. I also want to, you know, use it as a form of personal and self-development to level up and build discipline. So I'm not just building it for the vanity of having a physique. I'm wanting it for the outcomes. I'm wanting to build my physique for the results it brings. More discipline and character traits built for my career, for the confidence, for the self-worth, right? And for the energy. So I don't want to just necessarily neglect one or the other. I actually want to think about it more all-rounded. And we think about that with clients. Now, if someone's focus is just one thing or the other, we will go that way or we will go that way. It's all on your goal. But hopefully after watching this video, guys, you can think about what is your main focus. And there is no right or wrong with what your main focus is. I've had times where I just went high carb, low fats the entire time and I looked so good. And literally my only focus at the time was just making the physique look the best ever. That took me to a place in life with confidence and it was so worth it. But then I got to a point where my priorities slightly changed because of building the businesses and everything like that. And then I slightly changed around. There's no right or wrong, and you may use all of these at different points in your life with different points in your life you're at, right? There's no right or wrong is what I want to say, guys. All right? So I hope you've taken a lot of value. Drop me a comment below. Which one do you think is actually going to be most applicable to you? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Have you experienced this before? And are you going to give any of these a try in the future? Also, guys, if you do want more information and more depth broken down on this, we are launching our university next week. We're actually open for pre-launch now at 50% off. And this is basically a done-for-you university. We teach you everything from building your mindset, your physique, your nutrition, your training, supplementation, achieving high performance, building a life of freedom. We teach you how to become a 1% male in all areas of life. And that's a done for you approach. And we've got group calls on there. So it's going to go through absolutely everything in immense detail. We've also got our VIP coaching, which is where you work with myself and the team. And we just do everything for you. We jump on an initial onboarding call. We get an idea of exactly where you want to go. And we just take you the whole way through the journey. So both are going to take you to elite level results. Just whether you'd rather do it yourself or you'd rather have someone else do it for you. But if you are someone which is wanting to take your physique and your lifestyle to that next level, feel free to just jump on that link below, take a look, see if it's something that is in your best interest, and that could be a great option for you guys. But hope you're taking a lot of value. Make sure you like and subscribe, drop a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.